This is Deborah Baker with the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience. I'm your host, Deborah Baker, and I am the CEO of Trusted CISO. And also we have Isabella, my co-host.
Hi, everybody. So today we're going to go ahead and dive into two major cybersecurity incidents that have been making headlines. So the Disney Slack compromise and the Snowflake hack. We'll also discuss the new mandatory security features that Snowflake is rolling out in response. All right, Deborah, let's dive into it.
Okay, first up, the Disney Slack compromise. Now, when I heard this, I was like, what? Because Slack is owned by Salesforce, and Salesforce is known for amazing security. And I interviewed with them for a BISO role. So each one of their departments actually has it's like a CISO, but they call it a BISO. And they are just super, security conscious. So I was really surprised when I heard that, somehow that Slack was compromised until I started reading into the details, which we're going to be talking more about. But this breach, it caught the attention of many, especially given Disney's high profile status. Messages from 10,000 company Slack channels have been downloaded and made public by an apparent hacktivist group called Nullbulge. This group claims to target organizations they believe violate their ethical rules. In Disney's case, they expressed dissatisfaction with the company's use of AI, which they claim could harm working artists.
Yeah, I was reading up and I think they got over 1 terabyte of data information, which is
Wow.
crazy. I wonder how long it took them to obtain all that information. But yeah, so the exact methods used by Nullbulge are still unclear, but there's a speculation that cookie hijacking may have played a major role. So for those unfamiliar, cookie hijacking involves stealing session cookies to gain unauthorized access to an online account. So back in 2021, attackers used this method to breach EA's Slack account by purchasing stolen cookies, which allowed them to download 750 gigs of data. And I used to work for Apple. And, when I worked for Apple, we closed the retail stores because of COVID. And I got to work remote from home, which was nice. And they used to use Slack as their major form of communicating, back and forth internally. And I think there was something even going on back then with Slack, or like they were getting a bad rep, and they made us change over to Teams. So Microsoft Teams is like the big go-to now.
Okay. So a couple of things about this is that you've got this group and they're not doing this. They're not trying to ransom this data. They're just angry that that Disney's talking about using AI, which could replace the jobs of artists. So I thought that was really interesting. And then this whole cookie hijacking, which the cookie hijacking, there was a bunch of stuff on YouTube talking about this about a month or two ago also. So one of the big things that you'll hear me talk about and see in my videos is how you've got to use multi-factor authentication. And it protects against 99% of account hacks. But this is one of those hacks that can actually get around multi-factor authentication, it's a little scary. So and the other thing is, I was talking to one of my customers, and one of their customers recently had an incident, and they have multi-factor authentication, and we're not exactly sure, but one of the methods that could have been used is this cookie hijacking. So let's break down how cookie hijacking works. Session cookies are small text files that store information about a user's browsing session, including their login status. When an attacker gets hold of these cookies, they can impersonate the user, gaining access to their account and all its privileges.
Yeah, that's very scary. And there are several ways attackers can steal these cookies. They can intercept unencrypted network traffic, use cross site scripting to inject malicious scripts, employ a man in the middle attack. Social engineering, such as phishing, can also trick users into revealing their session cookies. Physical access to the user's device or exploiting weak encryption algorithms, and a whole bunch of other methods out there.
Yeah, it's important to implement best practices to protect against cookie hijacking. Always use HTTPS to encrypt data transmission, mark cookies as secure and HTTP only, enforce TLS SSL, and set appropriate session timeouts. Additionally, educate users on the importance of protecting their session cookies and using a VPN to secure their connection.
So I'll ask you a question, Deborah. Do you personally use any form of MFA on like your personal devices, or do you use a VPN, or what do you got going on?
Yeah, I use multi-factor authentication, and I try, especially on all my email accounts, any, my social media accounts, of course, my banking, any credit cards, things like that. So I really always just try to, go ahead and set up, if they have the multi-factor authentication, then I try to set that up. One of the things about this is where it talks about this HTTP only, and I was reading up on it, and if you know about security, you're like, oh, you should be using HTTPS. So that was a little confusing to me. But this setting is actually from 2002, and it is a security setting that helps to protect against cross-site scripting and having the cookies stolen off a web server. So I went this morning, I was reading up on it, and I actually tried to make some sort of a change to my own website, and that wasn't good. Because then my website went down for like 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't actually make this change. I need to read up more on this. But yeah, for all my personal accounts, I always try to use the MFA and, be security conscious.
No, that's great. Yeah, for my MFA, I use Authenticator. I believe that's through Google. So like any
Mhm.
of like my social media accounts or anything, I have to go on my mobile device and get the 6-digit code and kind of get in through there. And I think everyone should, activate MFA at any point, whether it's banking, you know,
Yeah.
personal, like use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it needs to be utilized a lot
Yeah.
more.
And there's a move to having a passkey, which is great. It's just you wanna make sure that that passkey that you are using a password manager. So, like Bitwarden, 1Password, or LastPass, and they all have free options for your personal use. So that way, because there was this whole thing going on, this was about 6 weeks ago, it was even the Wall Street Journal covered it, where in college towns, there are these hacking groups, and they're just doing old time shoulder surfing. And they'll look for your PIN code on your phone. Then they'll steal your phone at some point during the night. And this is usually at bars. And a lot of the people, they would just be using their default, like Apple credentials for everything, for their banking. And then, so once they were in, and if you had a pass key and you were just using it in your, Apple key store, for example, they would have access to that. So they were actually draining people's bank accounts. So having that, and so one of the things they said is make sure, and this would, count for your pass key too, is, have a password manager.
Now, with the password managers, do you think that people can put full trust into these, applications that they're purchasing in these companies? Like, we know that hackers, will always try to get at anything and everything that they can. So, do you think that we, as consumers should, really invest in these password managers? I personally, I don't. I try to, one, keep them in my head. Obviously, that's very hard because we have multiple logins to so many different things.
Yeah.
But what I do personally is I have a note on my iPhone and I lock the note and I have to have a password to get into it.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of people, even people that are not into cybersecurity, they're like, oh, password manager, that could just be hacked. And then they have all your passwords and da 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 da. And one of the reasons is because LastPass, I know several years back, 1Password had an incident, and then they've got their security stuff, better security. Then LastPass, they had a hack, and so everybody's, talking negatively. One of the things, there was one I went to that where was only local, all your information was local across your own devices, and then it went away. But Bitwarden actually gives you can either just have all your information local, or you can do it cloud-based. So it just depends. But as long as you have, I mean, I think it's worth it in that all you have to remember is, you're like your main login for your computer, and then like for me, my Bitwarden password, and then it gives me individual passwords for every single one of my sites. Because that's one of the things is if you don't have one, you're more likely to use the same password with multiple sites. And then if one gets hacked, then, it's more likely they could, hit some of your other sites. So I'm still for the password managers. Yeah, even with the hack. But, if you want to come up with your own, solution and have it locally stored, and you're not going to be like drunk in a in a bar with somebody shoulder surfing you, you're aware of your surroundings and stuff like that.
Make sure you keep that phone in your front pocket, no back pockets.
Yeah, exactly. Now you want to go now. What we're going to do is talk about the Snowflake hack, which we haven't done a deep dive on, but we can talk. I do want to get into it on one of these episodes. We just, there's been other hacks and stuff that have come up, but we'll go ahead and talk about it now.
Okay. So the Snowflake hack was a prominent data warehousing company that recently fell victim to a sophisticated cyber attack. Up to 150 of their customers' data was compromised due to not using multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this, I was like, "What?" The first one that I heard about was Ticketmaster, and I was reading up on their hack, and then I saw this post where Snowflake said we didn't have anything to do with it, and I was like, "Why are they talking about? Why is Snowflake saying we didn't have anything to do with the Ticketmaster hack?" And what happened is these 150 customers that had their data stored in Snowflake, and AT&T was also part of this. And you'll see like each individual company is coming out with their own announcement. But one of the things this goes back to is, well, of course, multi-factor authentication. All of these customers were not using multi-factor authentication, so that was part of it. So the hackers did target Snowflake, but it was only the customers that weren't using multi-factor authentication that were actually hacked. So that was part of it. And then also the shared responsibility model in the cloud, so that you are always responsible for your own data. And so technically Snowflake was not responsible because it was up to the user to enable multi-factor authentication. So that was another, part of this that came out. And the attackers gained unauthorized access to the customer's data, and then they ransomed it. And each one of the customers, as they got their data, they were trying to get like around 500,000 and saying, either pay us or we're going to put this on the dark web. And AT&T, they were able to use like negotiators and they got it down. It was more like in the 300,000 range. But if you think about that, 150 customers, and they were able to ransom each one. I mean, they ended up with a lot of money out of this. And Snowflake brought in Mandiant and CrowdStrike and to just review their systems and make sure that, yes, this is what it was. And Mandiant, made an announcement and said, yes, it was, just that these customers were not using multi-factor authentication.
And, typically it is very common, when you're working for a big company, they usually mandate MFAs now. So I feel like it's not that common that you come across some companies that they're like, yeah, if you want to set it up, like you can, but if you don't, it's okay. So, in response to these breaches, Snowflake has announced several new mandatory security features designed to bolster their defenses. So this includes enhanced MFA requirements. So Snowflake now mandates multi-factor authentication for all user accounts. Let's see. They now prompt for MFA setup, so it encourages the users to adopt MFA. Snowflake's Snowsite interface will now prompt users who have not configured it in the past to do so, which is fantastic.
Yes.
So kind of going back to what I said, that they kind of should mandate that for everybody.
Yeah.
And then also they added Snowflake's Trust Center. So Snowflake has introduced the Trust Center, which provides visibility into adherence to security policies. The Trust Center includes the Security Essentials Scanner package to check for MFA compliance and other security measures, and the CIS Benchmarks Scanner package to evaluate accounts against the CIS Snowflake Foundations. So that seems like more like the legal side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was great that now that they're, enforcing it and they're saying, yep, you have to have an MFA set up. I would like more applications to do this, because even knowing myself that I need to have an MFA, just sometimes you just like forget to go in and set it up, and just going ahead and enforcing it. I think that's great. And then to actually add the CIS, the Center for Internet Security Benchmark scanner package as part of their trust center, so that you can do these scans and make sure that you're actually have configured Snowflake securely. I mean, that's great. I love seeing this, that they've done this. So Snowflake's approach to security involves 3 key pillars: prompt, enforce, and monitor. Here's how they work. Prompt, encourage users to configure MFA by providing prompts and guidance within Snowsite. Enforce, allow admins to set and enforce MFA policies at both the account and user levels. Admins can exclude certain users, such as service accounts, from MFA requirements, which you don't really want to do, but okay, they're giving you a little bit more options. Monitor, provide tools within the Trust Center to monitor MFA compliance and other security policies, ensuring administrators can track and enforce security best practices, which is great.
Yeah, it is a bit odd, saying that admins can exclude certain users, because I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose of what they're trying to achieve of having everyone use MFA.
Yeah.
But to each their own. But yeah, no, so Snowflake has enhanced their authentication policies. Admins can now configure policies to require MFA for all users in an account, or tailor those policies to include or exclude single sign-on users. I like SSO. I use it currently for my job right now, and I feel like it's very user-friendly and super secure. Sometimes, obviously, it can be a little annoying to get all those prompts to sign in, after it times out, but that's what makes everything 10 times more secure. So, working in the cybersecurity industry, when you step away from your work computer, do you do you lock it? Do you put it to sleep, or do you kind of just walk away and you're like, oh, I know the screen will, go dark and it'll time out on its own. And, being out in public and that happening, kind of like those shoulder surfers, it can happen even on a computer. You can be at a coffee shop, you know, when you're out and about and you're working with sensitive data, like I would recommend getting those privacy screens. You can even buy them like on Amazon. They literally just are magnetic. They go right on your screen so people can't, read from, like a 90-degree angle. And every time you step away from your devices, you should always lock your device, no matter, if you're around family, friends, out in public. It's really good to just keep all your stuff secure.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. We really should just do it. Yeah, by default, just go ahead and just log out when you step away from your computer. So, monitoring is crucial, and the Trust Center is key to this. It allows admins to manage risk posture, check for MFA compliance, and ensure network policies are in place. The general availability of the Trust Center scanner packages helps detect issues such as overprivileged entities and stale users, enhancing overall security. So, in conclusion, these incidents highlight the ever-evolving nature of cybersecurity threats and the importance of staying vigilant. Whether it's through enhancing security protocols, educating employees, or leveraging advanced technologies, we must continuously adapt to protect our digital assets.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience. For more insights and updates, be sure to follow Deborah on LinkedIn. I think you also have a YouTube channel, Spotify going on. So be sure to check out all her forms of social media. And also take a look at her book that is also on Amazon. So all those links will be provided.
Yeah.
So until next time, everyone, stay safe. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say is I just found out this week that it sounds like ECU, East Carolina University, is going to be using my book for a graduate course for cybersecurity certificate. So I'm like super excited about that. So definitely, check it out on Amazon.
That is so exciting, Deborah. Congratulations to you. I wish that I was still in school. So then I could have potentially had your book in my class. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, well,
but
thank
until
you
next
so
time, everyone,
much.
stay safe and stay secure. Deborah, thank you so much again. And then until next time.
Yay.
So you see what I meant about that.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient.